I'm on an ongoing hunt to find watches that I absolutely love and have those watches join my collection. But in the back of my mind, as I'm doing this, I'm not only looking for watches that I really like, but I'm also looking for watches that dollar for dollar creates not just good value, but create a watch that almost makes you feel like, how is this watch only this amount of money? It's not the reason why I specifically buy watches or the reason why watches stay in my collection, but if I can find watches that I absolutely love, but also represent great value and are much better than they really probably should be for the cost of these watches, well, that is a big bonus for me. And I've got watches from brands before that give me this feel. Watches from Christopher Ward, from Janot, from Dorenzo, and even from San Martin. But every time I talk about something like this, when I talk about great value for money, but also great watches, there's one brand of watch that is always brought up in the comments or by friends that I know, and that brand is Formex. Hello, you're watching James. My name is James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And this brand of Formex has definitely been on my radar for quite a few years because everybody says that they are absolutely brilliant watches, and dollar for dollar, you are getting a lot for your money. And as I look at their watches on their website, and I've seen reviews of them over the years, I can definitely say that I like the designs of them, but there's always been one that has stood out to me over the past few years, and that is their Essence 39 range. So I've always known that this is probably a watch that I would like to enter my collection. However, although they may be great value and sort of cost less than they probably should, that doesn't mean that they are cheap. They are still relatively expensive watches, and that has limited me buying one straight away, and it has pushed me to look for one on the used market. And I've actually seen quite a few of them coming up for sale over the past year or so. But the ones that I've seen haven't been the dial color that I've been chasing. I've actually considered buying some of these, thinking, well, maybe not the exact color that I'm chasing, but it is the watch that I'm after. But I'm glad that I didn't grab one of those, because recently the one that I was chasing, the white dial version of this Essence 39, came up for sale. And this one, well, this one has been pre-loved, it has been pre-worn, there are some marks on it, but because of that, it has been priced at a point where I'm very comfortable purchasing it. I also know the person who was selling this watch, so I'm comfortable that the watch is going to be in good condition, even though it has been well worn. And today I've been wearing it. I've been wearing it ever since it arrived a few days ago, and I just want to share with you my first impressions of it. Is the Formex as good as everybody is saying? Did I do the right thing? Well, I'm not sure yet, but today, just my first impressions of this Formex Essence 39. So finally, I have a Formex in my collection, and I'm excited. I'm excited because I end up picking this one up for a reasonable price. It has been pre-loved, it has been pre-worn, and that's perfectly okay. But being from Formex, you do get a lot with it. This one comes with that spare rubber strap with that moving sort of a gliding adjustment that you have in there. I'll come back to that later on when I do a full review of this one. That's not really something that I've spent any time with yet. Obviously get books and bits and pieces. Little Formex. Comes in a nice sort of, just cardboard box, but it does present well. Whoop, Formex. But then when I did actually get this one finally in hand, I have to say that I had a few things that stood out to me. And in fact, I had 5 of them. And the first one was definitely just how this watch feels. It has a luxury, delicate type feel to it. Something that I have noticed about watches that do tend to cost more money, one thing that does tend to stand out, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, is just when you feel it, this tactile experience of, ooh, that feels like something a little bit extra special. There's something soft about it. The edges feel nice. It feels a little bit thinner. It has what I describe as a delicate feel, and I'm not sure if that's actually the best word for it, but that's how I sort of perceive it. So the first thing that stood out to me is this luxury, delicate type feel. Second was when I put this one on wrist, immediately I noticed just how nicely it sits down onto wrist. I guess this is something else that sort of links in with that first part of what I've said, is that it just feels lovely. It has that thinness that often luxury watches tend to have, which in my mind seems to elevate watches. And it just sits down nicely onto wrist, curves down nicely, sits well. And when I put it on, I just think, oh, that feels extra special. And the overall high quality of this watch probably is what is dictating those first two elements that I was talking about. When you feel this watch, when you look at this watch, when you see all the individual links of the bracelet, but then how you feel that, when you feel the case, when you look at the case, when you look at the edges, when you look at the details, yeah, they all sort of come together in an overall package of, wow, this is a well-made watch, and that always stands out to me. But something that was pretty much guaranteed to stand out to me was the design of this watch. It is a bit different to other watches that I've owned in this sort of sports watch, Garda style watch, both with the design elements of the screws there, with this springing feature that this watch has to allow for better comfort on the wrist, which I'm not actually experienced because I actually wear watches a little bit loose, so I'm never probably going to feel that. But it's interesting, the design elements of the bracelet as well, just how it looks, that it has this little extra adjustment here. I think you can pull this one out. Yeah, it gives you a little bit of extra adjustment. It's the sort of refinements, but just the overall design look of this one that has really then stood out to me. And I think the last thing that really has sort of come together for me in my mind as I've been experiencing this one over the last few days is the idea of, well, if I was ever going to have a one and done watch, this could definitely be a contender. Not that I'm ever going to have a one and done watch. I've never really thought of that as a real thing for me because I just am passionate about watches. I like collecting watches. I like experiencing different styles of watches. But if I ever was to have a watch that you can only just wear the one, well, this would be a contender because it does tick all the boxes that I am chasing for watches, and it could be used and worn in all different scenarios. But that's never going to happen. That's very, very, very unlikely for me because for me, watches isn't about finding the one and done watch. It is about finding watches that I love, that I enjoy wearing, and I think this is going to be one of them. Now, this is definitely not a new release watch. It's been out for a few years, so there's no need for me to rush back to it to do a full review. I think it's likely to stay in my collection longer term, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear and enjoy this one for quite a few months, and then one day I'll end up circling back to it and do a full in-depth review of it. But until then, I do lots of watch-related videos. Maybe you can watch one of them next.